Okay, let's just let everyone get settled in here. But good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Mike Babbage. I'm a senior recruiting analyst here at SportsRecruits, and we're super excited to bring in together really just a lot of leaders and a lot of experience in the club basketball space to talk about this ever-changing world of recruiting, how they have set up their student athletes for success, and ultimately what club coaches and club staff need to know about today's recruiting environment in the basketball world. So we have some really exciting panelists here today who have a lot of experience in this space, in this landscape. We're going to discuss everything from how to keep teams engaged, the influence of social media on recruiting, helping players find the right college fit. But before we officially get things kicked off, I just want to set the stage for what this conversation, why it is so important to have. And that's why I'm going to hand things over to Brooke, one of our former basketball athletes here at SportsRecruits, is going to walk us through some of the key themes and what really are the most relevant topics in the basketball recruiting landscape today.
Awesome. Thanks, Babbage. Hey, everybody. My name is Brooke Carpenter. I am a sales director here at SportsRecruits. I had played basketball in college at a Division III level for 4 years. It was up in upstate New York. That was where I grew up. It was at SUNY Plattsburgh, if anyone's familiar. And just super excited to moderate this session with some of you. I do spend a great deal of time just in my role every day at SportsRecruits, talking with coaches like yourselves, listening to the challenges, and really just understanding the recruiting landscape and how you guys are all approaching that today. Really looking forward to having some seasoned directors, not only in, using SportsRecruits every day, but just in the basketball landscape in general. I just think there's some important topics that are impacting recruiting and college placement today that they're certainly going to highlight. The panelists today, I definitely want to introduce them, but some of the things before I give them the floor, things that we'll be covering today. One, best ways to build a recruiting ready program. Two, the role of a club coach in a student athlete's recruiting process, how important that can be. Number three, what it looks like to be a recruiting partner on SportsRecruits and what all of that can entail. And then number four, just how to make a recruiting part of the club's DNA. And we all know the modern basketball landscape is constantly changing, and we think it is essential to create space for you guys to share what they're seeing, what's working, and then how they're helping athletes navigate it all. So excited for everyone to join us. So starting with the panelists, Chris, I'll start with you, and then I'll go with Lisa and then Alan. So Chris, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brooke. Chris Goodrum, I'm the COO for Pro Skills Basketball. Pro Skills Basketball, not the Nike EYBL affiliated Pro Skills Basketball down in Texas. We're an independent program built out of 30 cities across the U.S., working with thousands of kids, players, parents. So we've got a pretty unique wide angle view of how recruiting is actually evolving. Not the social media version, because we can all look at social media and get one perspective, but the real version that families and programs have to navigate. Just give you some numbers about PSB. We've got 305 players that have played or are playing in college, 10 professional players, that's two in the NBA, and then 8 overseas. I'm located specifically in Charlotte, and our Charlotte program, by the numbers, we've got 162 players that have played or are playing in college. I think the biggest thing that we've seen in the modern recruiting landscape kind of rewards two things above everything else in how we manage our players and help guide them. One is clarity, and the second is consistency. It's less about talent alone and more about having a system, a plan, and the daily habits to match both your program goals, but also the goals of your players. And your parents. Our message to every family is simple. Recruiting isn't about having logos or chasing levels. It's about finding the right fit, building the right habits, and staying consistent in a landscape that changes every year. So definitely excited to kind of dig into all of that today.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Lisa Van Wyk. I'm the founder, owner, president of Blaze Sports and Fitness and Wisconsin Blaze out of Appleton, Wisconsin. And that is, so if people don't know, we are 30 minutes south of Green Bay, hour and a half north of Milwaukee. We are in our 14th year, and we actually very blessed to also own a 40,000 square foot facility with 3 basketball courts, 5,600 square feet of fitness space. So we really focus on the development of athletes from youth through professionals. We have full-time trainers on staff. We have over 35 basketball coaches and volleyball coaches as well. We run around 32 boys and girls basketball teams and 18 girls club volleyball teams. And we have a whole fitness program for the community as well, with an additional 15 coaches there and support staff as part of our organization. And in terms of recruiting, it's really developed over the number of years that we've been running. We kicked off a very special program that we call the PATH program. And it really coincided with our work with SportsRecruits. We were part of another organization or software technology platform to begin with that I didn't find very helpful, actually, and learned a lot during that time. I played in college, so and been coaching for 30 years, so I've seen a lot through that landscape. And with our PATH program, SportsRecruits have been just the best partner to help us teach, guide, support our families to understand really what it takes to be recruited. And one, you got to be able to compete on the court, be the best leader you can be, but also the biggest passion of ours is helping them find the right home. Like Chris said, it's not about chasing the level, it's about understanding where your fit is so that you can get the most out of this experience for you and the family, for the athlete and family. So we really utilize SportsRecruits as a very powerful tool to target strategically where those homes are. And we've developed hundreds of college coach connections over the time, which allows us to find that right fit. We have about 85 athletes that have gone on to play in college. We've also supported about 6 athletes to find their way overseas and compete professionally overseas as well, and train out of our facility. We are definitely focused on development, hence the facility. We train all year long because we know that developing them not only in their skills, but as a person is absolutely important to be the best leader they can be at the end of the day, because we put down the ball, and who they are afterwards and through that is the most important to us.
Hello, I'm Alan Fleisher, co-founder of New York Grit. We are a not-for-profit organization that we were founded about 8 years ago with the business model to support kids in New York City that don't have the resources to go to the next level and play in college. As my panel members know, it becomes very, very expensive for families to get their kids, first of all, to get them trained and coached and mentored and marketed and travel to all these wonderful tournaments around the country. And there are hundreds and hundreds of kids in New York City that I would sit on a basketball court and watch them play and say, if I only would have met this kid 4 years ago, she could have been a Division I player, but she didn't have the resources, she didn't have the coaching. Families, single parent families that parents are working 2 jobs, they just don't have the time or the resources to help their kids. So we started the program to help those kind of kids. We finance all our kids that are in the program. We make a commitment to each family their freshman year in high school, as long as they follow our very, very demanding rules and regulations. We will see them through the entire recruiting process through high school. We don't only give them support on the court, we also give them tutoring if they need it, academic tutoring. Our kids are in dire need of learning how to eat healthy. We have a team dietitian. We have a strength and conditioning coach. We have a team doctor. And Sports Recruit has been amazing for us. And is really, when we started the program, I had limited knowledge of recruiting at the college level, minimal relationships, and Sports Recruit was able to help me build many of the relationships that I have now. And I'm really thankful for Sports Recruit.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate all the sentiments and learning a little bit more about you all. So we're going to jump into it. I know none of these questions were provided to any of you. So we're going to roll with this. So starting off with just building a recruiting ready program. So number one, a little bit of a two-part question. Lisa, I'll start with you. So, how do you describe your role in the athletes' recruiting journeys, and what do you spend the most time, would you say, doing to help them through it?
Oh, that's a great question. So my role, I really feel if I was going to pick one word to describe it, is a guide. Like if we're going on an adventure, it'd be a guide. As I described before, we have a path program, so we really fine tune the process. Everybody is on a different adventure. Everybody's recruiting journey is going to look different, but there are certain things that we have found that if you do can help you garnish additional exposure, to get your name out there, to get coaches who would love to see you and know about you in front of them. And so some of those things include we provide all of our families in the high school level sports recruits access and huddle. We think that video is absolutely important. We also make sure that they understand like Twitter is a professional resume for them. So making sure that they're always creating highlights, posting them, keeping their name out there. It's not boasting, it's about showing who they are and what they're capable of. And but Sports Recruits has been a great connector. Like Alan said, it's allowed us to make connections with college coaches by emailing college coaches for the different conferences and schools that we feel might be a great fit for them. And we get messages back. And that has been absolutely amazing for us to develop our relationships with college coaches. And so we take all of the experiences that I've had over the years and the network that has grown for us to be able to guide our families along the journey to make sure, because when they come to it, they're like, where do I go? What do I do? What do I say? What questions do I ask? So we've created documents. For example, how do you talk to a college coach? We have meetings with our athletes. When you're on a phone call, what do you say? When you go on a visit, what do you look for? And because the biggest thing is we want to make sure that they end up finding the right spot and being there and supporting them along the way. It's as grassroots as you can get. There's no magic formula. It's, hey, we're going to have a conversation. What comes out of that, we revisit it and we just guide every situation that comes along based on our experiences. But having Sports Recruits as a tool that allows us to organize all of the information and have that connection is really important because you can have 20 kids you're working with or families, and they're all over the place with who they're working with. And if they've gone to camps, if they've talked to, certain coaches, if they're just starting a relationship with a coach or they're close to making a decision, if you don't have a organized process, I think it can be very overwhelming. And Sports Recruits helps us keep it organized.
Yeah, for sure. Chris or Alan, do you have anything to add to Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would co-sign on Lisa's, like our job is to be guides, not gatekeepers. I think ultimately we're supposed to provide the roadmap and the player's supposed to drive the car if we continue with those fun little sayings. Like my job is to teach the process. It's to demystify the path because I think the path can be clouded, it can be muddy, and so it's to help clear that up, and then ultimately to remove obstacles. I think when you think about a true recruiting ready program, that's a program that has clear systems, has staff education, has proactive communication, has honest assessments, and I think honest assessments is key here. I think there's a lot of programs out there that will tell parents and players what they want to hear. And that's when we get into that murky little world. And I think we need to be honest with players' assessments. We need to have the tools and transparency, a culture that values development over hype, and a trusted network. In order to get recruited, the program that's helping recruit you or the program that's helping build you into a recruitable branded basketball player has got to be trusted in the college ranking system, right? Like colleges talk. There very much is a rumor mill that flies through college coaches. They're always bouncing from team to team. They have trusted contacts at other colleges. And so if you burn one bridge, you've probably burned a handful of bridges. And so making sure that you are holding yourself responsible, that you're being honest with college coaches, and then delivering that message to parents. So, when I think about recruiting ready, I think about organized, honest, proactive, consistent.
That's awesome. Yeah, that literally leads right into that next question I was going to ask is what does that mean to be a recruiting ready program? What does that look like? I feel like in some of my conversations for new programs that may have never heard of sports recruits or really understand what the idea behind it is, and it is to save you time in your day to day. But when a new technology is being introduced to some of these programs, and they think, well, it's more time on my plate to learn more about this, or it's going to take so much time out of my already day to day to invest time into making sure this is successful. What would one of you say to a club that is using that as a, response or a hesitation?
Well, I would I could only speak for what I see in my general area and what makes us very unique to in the New York City area. Um, our program focuses specifically on the process, the entire process of a holistic process of training and getting a young lady recruited. And you have to build a foundation. If you're a program that is looking to help kids get recruited for college, there is no quick fix to do it. And by the way, neither is Sports Recruit, in the sense that with Sports Recruit, you have to build a foundation and have a process. I dropped Sports Recruit on one of my families, or I really talk to the kids. I do not talk to the parents. It's because this is a learning experience for the kids. This is their first resume they're writing. And when we get a kid as a freshman, their resume is rather limited. What are they going to show a college coach as a freshman? My kids are not playing on the AAU circuit and traveling all around the country as 6th and 7th graders. They don't have highlights. So we're teaching a program that's going to use Sports Recruit has to know that they are all about the whole entire process, not just being in the gym. We spend, I wouldn't say as much because it's not, but I spend a lot of time with the girls, wrangling them in on their profiles on Sports Recruit. I have that going on right now. We many times don't have girls that play in programs, high school programs, that get a lot of exposure during high school season. So they completely ignore their Sports Recruit this time of the season. And I'm telling the girls now, you're going out and playing in front of college coaches now, and you got the wrong high school, you got the wrong this, you have no new highlights. So um, I would tell any director of a program that is helping kids, um, it is a really valuable tool, but it's not magic. You have to have a process to teach the kids. And in our case, like I can't hold them that accountable right now. If with our kids, and I've gotten some feedback from the people from Sports Recruit, our kids usually do a pretty good job with Sports Recruit. And one of the reasons why, if I tell them they got to get 40 emails out by Monday and they don't, they're not playing on Tuesday or they're not practicing on Tuesday. So we hold the kids. We're very serious about it because when we take a kid into our program, we will not take a kid into our program that does not have aspirations to play at the next level. We're putting too many resources into our kids, time, money, and our kids are all locked in. And by the way, we don't care if it's Division 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter to us. But if you're not somebody that's looking to go on to play at the next level, we're not interested in the kid. So we hold them accountable. But yeah, they're just to kind of like tie up. There is work involved, and it's a process, and it takes time to build a resume for the kids in their profile. Profile of a freshman kid is not going to be the same as a junior kid.
For sure. Babbage, I wanna focus on you since you work with so many of athletes one-on-one. What advice do you give athletes when they're first starting off with this recruiting process?
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a different situation than our panelists here, where I've had a chance to work with individual student athletes across a lot of different sports. So I think the approach that we take is really just trying to identify what that process and playbook that we found to be successful for athletes. And of course, each sport has their own individual niches. But I think when you're first getting started as a student athlete, really the most important thing is not tempering expectation, because I think that's a negative aspect, but really setting what that expectation should be, and also making sure that we really identify, hey, look, it's great if your goal is to play at the Division 1 level or to become a professional student athlete. None of us are going to stop you from trying to achieve that goal, but we also want to make sure that we are casting a wide net and giving you a variety of options to consider at the same time too. So, and I think that actually goes into kind of a follow-up question I wanted to ask you all today, and maybe Lisa, you can kind of fill me in on this too. Something that I sometimes struggle with, particularly when college programs are in season, is that the right time to be contacting these college coaches? Are you instructing your athletes to stay consistent during this time frame, or would you recommend that they wait until the college season starts to wrap up, when those coaches may have more of a hard focus on the recruiting side of things? Because I think that's something that I sometimes struggle with in terms of how important is it throughout the calendar year to gear up communication, or is it about staying the same level of consistent throughout the entire year?
It's a great question. So I tell our family is you can't stop recruiting. You can't stop your recruiting process and your work. Because if you don't continue to put your name out into the environment, into the atmosphere, then coaches will forget you because there are so many athletes out there. It's way too easy for someone else to fill that space.
Yeah.
And there's only so much time that coaches have for recruiting. There's only so many hours in the day. During the basketball season, right now, during winter, during their collegiate season, when families say, hey, I sent so many emails, but I didn't hear back from anybody. Should I just give up? Like, does that mean they don't want me? And I'm like, absolutely not. It does not mean that. It means they're just very busy. And you have to think about what they're going through. They're preparing. They're 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, to get.
They're also incompetent and lazy.
Yeah. And so, but if they see your name go across their desk, they'll remember that. I miss what you said, Alan. What did you say?
I said they're also incompetent and lazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I would say
Not
incompetent.
all, not all the coaches,
Yeah.
but many.
But and I understand sometimes they get busy themselves too, the athletes, because they're going to school 8 hours a day, right? And then they got practice or they got a game and they got to travel. But I tell them, hey, even if you can do 2 pushes in a month, send out your emails, update your highlights, and you're getting film from high school, put those out, put them out on your social media and send out an email, even if it's once a month to keep it going. And then when we get to going into spring, we're not waiting until the AAU season because then it's actually it feels a little late. When you get to February and March, that's when coaches are starting to create their own spring and summer schedules, and they're wondering where you're going to be, making sure that we have our graphics and our schedules set way before then, and the athletes are pushing out their schedules to the college coaches and now ramping up their communication in that time frame where we're running into spring is really important.
Yeah, I would just add to everything that Lisa said. I think the biggest thing is be proactive, and
Mhm.
that's a year process. I tell our players, ghosts don't get recruited. So if you're not doing anything, you're not going to get recruited. And then graveyards don't have bunk beds. And what I mean by that is so many players in today's world want to play with their friends and follow their friends. Um, Graveyards don't have bunk beds, so don't live and die by what your friend's doing. Like you're making a decision for you. So ghosts don't get recruited and graveyards don't have bunk beds. Um, I think the biggest thing that you as program directors and coaches can really lean into is just being on top of trends. Because the recruiting landscape is always changing, you've got to be on top of trends, portal impact, scholarship availability, academic requirements, social media patterns, best tournaments to attend. Everyone wants to travel. Like there's for us on the East Coast, there's no reason for us to be in Nebraska. There's no reason for us to be in Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas and California. The majority of D1 through D3 schools sit east of the Mississippi, so why would we leave and go west of the Mississippi? Um, so understanding where the biggest bang for your buck is, understanding what the best elite camps to go to. Everyone gets those emails, come to this camp, come to that camp. So knowing which camp is the best to push to your kids, and then get in really good with those coaches and get discounts. I've got a list of over 300 elite camps, and I know which discounts I can get and which I can't. And that's where I send or push to send our kids based on the total number of coaches that will be there. I think for young athletes, if you're not getting a response from coaches, a non-response is not it's not a no,
Mhm.
right? And so if you're not getting responded to, especially during the season, this is where understanding trends comes to play. As soon as college coaches start their season, they've got about 2 months to figure out of their players, how many of them are going to rise to the standard of the culture and how many of them are going to fall to the standard of the culture. And so they're using those first 2 months of their season to really gauge, hey, probably going to have to push these kids into the portal. That's a part of the business now. Or hey, these kids probably aren't going to come back, and so they're using those first kind of 60 to 90 days to really figure out what their program's going to look like next year. So, like for our current class of 2026, it's probably quiet right now because those college coaches are trying to figure out what their roster is going to look like and then where they need to go back to reinvest in the class of 2026 to figure out what's going on. And then to really understand kind of the spring timeline of it all. Because, right, like we all know on the boys' side, there's a May live period, there's 2 July live periods. The May live period is crap, right? Like you're not really getting a lot out of the May live period, and that's because the transfer portal has just closed. College coaches are allowing transfers to come on campus. They've got to entertain those transfers to come on campus. So by that first May live period, they're not even thinking about whatever that current class is. That's the rising senior class. They're worried about transfers. And so understanding just the trends that are happening and how you go about working with your parents. Traditionally, I tell our kids during the fall and winter, you continue communicating with who's communicated with you. I will reach out to new coaches, and if we start getting bites from those coaches, then we connect the dots. But you continue to communicate with who you've been communicating to, and then as the market starts to pick up for you, because right, wrong, or indifferent, the market sets your value. And if you're a D3 kid and only D3 is reaching out, you're a D3 kid. D2, D2, D1, D1, then we're going to work with that. But we've got to make sure that we're realistic, we're proactive, and we're doing everything that we can.
Yeah, I think
I was just going to add, I alluded to it earlier. We're very active right now. Just yesterday, I had a Division I coach go down to a high school game locally to watch our kids. This weekend in New York, there's a big high school event with teams from uh, really all over the Northeast. And there's going to be a large contingency of college coaches there. So I now have used the high school season more than I have ever to get, especially the local colleges in my area, down to watch my kids play. We also have, I have my partnerships with my high schools because most of our kids come through the high schools, open gyms where college coaches come down to what's called an open gym and just watch a workout. So we're very active during the high school season as well. And the colleges that hustle and are really on top of their recruiting game, they're going to go to high school games and they're going to go to open gyms. And then there are others that don't. It's a mixed bag, but I would not shut down during high school season in terms of recruiting.
Yeah, I think all these ways that all three of you touched on of how to keep your kids motivated across all levels is really important. I have a fun personal story. I love talking about this. My sports recruits team, probably is going to giggle at me if they're watching this. But I played in high school alongside Brianna Stewart, who, if you guys all don't know her, she's excellent. She's paved such a path in the women's basketball landscape, and she was 2 years younger than me. She played at Central North Syracuse High School, and I played at Oswego. So we played in the same section and even played with her on AAU a few tournaments. And she was an awesome person. But when you look at someone like her and then someone like me, who, I played a Division III basketball level. If I were to ride on her coattails of, relying on the schools that were looking at her, UConn, Duke, Penn State, Syracuse even offered her a full ride, of course, in her backyard. Those would have never been in alignment for me as an athlete. They were not my best fit. And so how important it is to touch on not just your standout athletes, but the ones that are also motivated to play at the next level, but it doesn't look like those obvious most common schools that you hear all of the time, such as UConn and Duke. So how would you say, you guys, you touched on how you keep your players motivated, but what advice would you give these athletes who may feel discouraged throughout their time, where they're watching their teammates who are better than them? They're getting these types of looks. What would you tell someone that isn't in that D1 path?
It depends on what grade they're in and where they are in the process, really. If it's a junior, you have to be straight up, honest with them and give an assessment. But you know what? Sometimes I've been surprised. I have a kid now at UMass, and I told her she wasn't a Division I player, and she turned down Swarthmore, she turned down Haverford, she turned down a lot of really good Division III schools, and she got a roster spot as a walk-on UMass. So what the hell do I know?
Awesome.
But the point I wanted to make is, our kids don't really push back on it a lot. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Some do. But if they're juniors, you can't waste any time. I'm not going to have a junior that I know is a Division III kid, right into every Big East school. I'm going to say, hey, you could do it, but that you got to spend your time in other places as well. And I'm certainly, the other thing is, the way we operate is we support the kids. So the kids might write an email, but I'm also on the phone with that coach or texting that coach or emailing that coach. And I tell the kids, I can't go look at coach in the eye and tell that coach that you're a Division I player and you're a good fit, because that's going to kill credibility for the next kid that I have. If I oversell a kid and they take one of my kids and it's not a good fit, I'm not going to get another kid in that school. So I'm very transparent with my with the college coaches. On the flip side, the college coach knows when I'm all hyped up about a kid and I love the kid, they feel real comfortable that, Alan's got a great kid here because he's always been straight up.
Brooke, I have to say, we have to be, like Alan said, honest with our athletes. We also have to share how we do our work with them and make sure that everybody understands that they are valued, no matter what level they end up as. If they can play collegiately at any level, that is a blessing. Whether you're JUCO, D3, D2, D1, competing for as long as you can and being an impact person on and off the court and continuing to have that experience to being a student athlete at the next level, you can go play D1 and absolutely hate it. So why go D1 if it's not a fit for you? But if you can find success and have a wonderful career at a different level, do it, because those are memories that last lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. As far as
Brooke, sorry, I was on mute. Clearly, you guys couldn't hear me. I was like, why aren't they listening to me?
We're just talking over you, Chris.
Yeah, no, it was me, man. I think all of that's really good. I think it's really important to help kids from the jump understand that that's probably one of the biggest mistakes a parent or player could make, comparing timelines. Instead of building their own timeline, right? Every player has their own timeline, and social media makes it so difficult just to stay in the moment of your timeline and be present and kind of bloom where your feet are. But I think helping them understand. So I sit down with all of and I'm going to talk 17U specifically right now, like 15U recruiting conversation, completely different than 16U, completely different than 17U, completely different than unsigned senior. But for our 17U kids, like I fully believe that if I've evaluated you as being able to play in college, there is a roster spot for you. There are plenty of roster spots out there in college, but what it comes down to is having an honest conversation with the parent and the player to figure out what their non-negotiables are. And I think we could all do our players more service by just sitting down with them and helping them understand what their non-negotiables are, meaning, hey, how far from home do you want to be? What size school do you want to be at? What major do you want it to be? Do you want it to be an urban school? Do you want it to be a school that's deep in the cut of the country? Do you want it to be a public school? You want to be a liberal arts school, a Catholic school, a private school? Figuring all of those non-negotiables so it can help you kind of refine the net that you're casting out. Still a large net depending on what their non-negotiables are, but it helps you refine that net, and then it helps you have even more very direct strategic conversations with those parents. It helps you kind of lay their timeline out, right? Because if you tell me you want to play, you're a high academic kid, you can play in the UAA, which is a really good D3 conference. Cool. Let me pull up those schools. Okay, great. We've got NYU, we've got U of Chicago, we've got Washington and Lee, we've got, this school, that school, right? Like we can start building off of that. And if you get bites from the UAA, well, you're probably going to get bites from Centennial. You're probably going to get bites from the ODAC. And so really working around their non-negotiables and having honest conversations with them. And the first thing that I tell them is, hey, I see you starting at the D3 level. Let's aim small, miss small, right? Like Benjamin Martin said in The Patriot, aim small, miss small, boys. And so we're going to aim small, we're going to miss small. And then as I continue to do my job, right? Because yes, the player is driving the car, but I'm helping type the directions in to the GPS, right? It should not be all on the child because at the end of the day, they are a child. They have no idea how any of this works. Parents have no idea how any of this works. When I was coming up getting recruited, I was VHS recording all of my games, putting them on envelopes, sending them to coaches and hoping they showed up. Now there's so much access. So to say the kids have to do it by themselves is wild, right? Like we have to help them and educate parents and still be there walking side by side with them. But it starts with being honest and then really getting non-negotiables and touching in with them week in and week out.
Yeah, Chris, it's great delivery. We call that in our PATH program our discovery meeting. So we always start our recruiting process with a discovery meeting and finding out who they are as people and what they want. And we have a list of questions that Chris actually hit on that allows us to understand who they are. And a lot of times they don't know what they want. And like he said, a 15U, if a kid comes to you at 15U and you keep their journey might change, what they decide they want to do academically or where they want to go might expand or it might come closer to home by the time they're 17U. And so continuing to go back to those questions sometimes also is important, but understanding who your players are so that you can be strategic with your time and their time is really important.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say, Brooke, is like helping kids understand what the right fit actually means, right? Because kids just want to go play, but they don't understand like what the right fit means, right? Like so when I talk to kids, it's always like, hey, like I have a player that's about to commit to Messiah, really great school, really great, and so super excited. Fliegel's a great coach. Um, and the one question I asked, but he had like 6 offers. The one question I asked is, hey, if for some reason God came down and said basketball is no longer an option, whether it's an injury or X, Y, or Z. Do you like the community? Do you like the school? Do you see yourself getting an education at the school? Because at the end of the day, yes, you're in a basketball gym and yes, you're with your player community, but the campus community is equally as important. The academic side is equally important. And so helping them understand like that the right fit actually means where you'll play, where you'll grow, where you'll graduate, and ultimately where you feel like you belong the most. Because I think some kids just want to go play, that they don't think about the other aspects of the college life, and we need to help them understand what the right fit actually means.
Absolutely. I
That
think all three of you have a great, like, the way you incorporate recruiting as your DNA part of how you operate. It's just like a non-negotiable. Curious how you get your staff to buy into the system. What
The big
kind of
one
conversations
that
do you have?
I just wanted to add one thing, and I agree with everything everybody's saying. The one ingredient that always has to be considered, especially at the Division 2 and 3 level, is finances.
Mm.
Because um, if you're a family that's a middle income family and you want to go to the NESCAC or the Centennial or the UAA, you might not get any merit money, depending on the school. You're not going to get full financial aid, and you're going to be on the hook for 40, 50,000 a year. It might be 90, it's going to be over $90,000. They might get half, but they're going to have to come up with another 40,000. And that's a deal breaker for a lot of families. So
Unless you have good
before
grades, unless you have good grades, I have a player that's at Denison that's paying $15,000 a year. So
merit for a lot of the top schools don't even give merit money, and then if they do give merit money, it's usually about 40 grand. And if you go to any of these schools that I just Tufts, Emory, they're all 90,000 plus. So you get 40, you still got another 50 to pay. They're not giving full scholarships merit. And I don't know of any. But if you're a low income kid, yes, I have many kids going to school for free now. But it's because their families are making less than 60,000 a year. But if you have any that are giving full scholarships, please let me know because I'll be talking to those schools.
Yeah, I
That'll
found
be
with those schools, like you said, with D2s, D3s, sometimes you either have to be really rich financially or
great.
poor financially.
Exactly.
The middle class, it's tougher on. And the coaches that we've worked with, I found whether it's D2 and they can only give partial, or D3 who doesn't give athletic scholarships, they try to at least work with the families to get it to as low as possible in comparison to your state tuition. So if you can go to this school and it's equal to your state, like if you're going to stay home, tuition or lower than that, then they try to make it make sense. Hey, you're going to
Mhm.
save money coming with us, and she can play, whereas maybe they can't play at home and it's going to cost them more. Um, and I think and every situation is different. Every situation, every team, every program, even in the same program year to year, what coaches have financially, like at a D2 level, changes based on where their money's tied up with athletes on their current roster, upcoming roster. So making sure that the other thing too with that is a lot of times families will turn a blind eye to D3 thinking, well, it's $50,000. There's no way I can pay 50,000. And they don't go through the process. And it's like, no, you want to go through the process because it's surprising how low coaches can actually get the cost of that school or that tuition for them and room and board. Sometimes down to 5,000 and it's a
Well,
D3 school. So going through all the way through the process to get to that point where you fill out your financial aid form, they look at whether or not there's merit scholarship is involved, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Don't close the doors. You
Yeah,
never know.
I 100% agree, Lisa. Like, making like if you've got 5 offers, you need to go through the whole package process with all 5 schools. And the majority of D3s, again, we've got a kid at Denison right now. He's only paying $15,000. He also has a 4.3 GPA.
Mhm.
So I don't want to frown on how expensive they are because if you do the work in the classroom, good things will 100% happen to you. We've got a kid that's got an offer at Case Western right now that we're going through that process with him, and then we got a kid at Caltech that's going through that process right now. All very expensive schools, but they've also done elite level work in the classroom to help that expense come down tremendously.
Mhm.
I also, and we don't particularly admittedly help or do a good job with this. Families need to also be proactive and look for additional types of scholarships. Like if you're a civil service worker, there are scholarships in different industries, ethnicities. I've had kids I have a kid at Muhlenberg now that was a middle income kid and she got about half, but she was able to get another $30,000 from different scholarships she did research on, and she's going to Muhlenberg basically for free. So they're, thinking out of the box, being creative, at least giving the parents ideas about other, there's so much information out there now. It's so easy to find out about different scholarship opportunities. Certainly, if I find out about them, I'm going to pass them on to my parents. But the parents got to be proactive as well. Or in our case, it was actually the kids that were proactive like that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
would for all the program directors and coaches that are listening, just to plug a guy that's doing really good work in the D3 world. Is his name's Carl Barkley. He runs D3 Direct. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Twitter. He's got his own website. He builds camp lists. He gives discounts out for those camp lists about which camp's the best to go to in the Northeast, Southeast. And then he does a lot of good research on everything that we're talking about on scholarships, merit, funding in the D3 world. But his name's Carl Barkley, D3 Direct.
Yeah, don't discount D3s because there's some beautiful and amazing facilities and programs and high level when you're at the end of the day when you look and compare them to some D2s, D1s. So,
And even like when you talk about postgraduate networks,
mm,
there are a lot of D3 schools that have deeper networks in the professional world that come from the D3 world than the D1 world. So, basketball is going to stop bouncing at some point. Everyone wants that dream of playing in some professional space. But for the vast majority, for 99% of us, that's not going to happen. And so, again, the right fit. Do you have the alignment? Are you picking a school that's going to help put you in a position to just be a well-rounded adult post graduation?
mhm.
Well, we'll do one more question. We'll gear it towards, any new programs that are starting out, or maybe they're just smaller programs that haven't explored, too deep into technology, but building a foundation of recruiting and what that success looks like. What kind of strategies would you all share with them?
I wanted to share mine for our PATH program. I think we've all said you have to have a system, you have to have a plan. You need a plan going into this. But also you have to decide who you are first. Are you going to be just a developmental program? Or are you going to be one that you are going to get into the recruiting journey with your families? Don't say you are, but then not have a plan. So definitely having a plan is important. And I'll just share, like, we have our 5-step program, and we've talked through all of these, but just to summarize and put them in chunks for people. The first thing that we do is we assess the athletes, get to know them, have a discovery meeting with them. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is train them, help them understand what Sports Recruits is, how it's a tool, what tools do you need, and then what's the timeline for them as 15, 16, or 17U. And then the third one we haven't really touched on is promote your athletes. What is that going to look like for them? What do they have to do? And what are you as a club director going to do to help promote them? Whether it's using social media, using Sports Recruit to send out emails, making phone calls, sending texts, and then it's this constant cycle of doing those things over and over again, and understanding that it's gonna take time, but not to give up, because there is a place out there for them. And then the fourth one is what we just talked about now, is the win. You want as many options as possible. So at the end of the day, when they've gone through your program and they're junior, going to be a senior, they have options to look at. They have 2, 3, 4, and some people think everybody's going to have 30 offers. It honestly is not like that. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is way more than some people may even get to even talk to a coach. So be realistic in terms of what you might end up with. Might be a few really great options, but to have an option is really important, and how you go through that process with getting all the way through the end of what are the financial opportunities and ramifications. And then giving back in our program. So it's assess, train, promote, win, and then inspire. Always keeping in mind that there's a purpose for this, and at the end of the day, it's about becoming the best version of yourself that you can be, being a leader.
Yeah, I think Brooke, just to tie the question that didn't get answered into this is having coaches that know what they're doing. All of our coaches have either played in college or played professionally, and now they coach high school basketball for the high school side of our house, specifically here in Charlotte. And so having coaches that have lived and breathed the process, and then making sure your coaches align with your program vision. So back to what Lisa said, like, what are you doing this for? If it's to win, then it's not to help kids. Winning is great, and I've never met a competitor that doesn't want to win, but winning doesn't always equate to getting kids to the next level. And so making sure that your program philosophy aligns from top down and it's a continuum. And then for early or young programs, young coaches, it's starting to build your network. And so, like, if you're in a city that has colleges, has universities, reach out to those coaches, right? I'm in Charlotte. I'm good friends with Mark Prosser, the Winthrop head coach, Grant Leonard, the Queens head coach, Matt McKillop, the Davidson head coach. I go to their practices constantly and get to know them. During live periods, I go and talk to every coach that I can get a hold of. I try to go to practices wherever our players are. I try to get to those games, and I don't talk about the recruitment of our players. I call Josh Merkel at Randolph-Macon probably twice a month, and rarely do we talk about players. How's his kids? How's his family? What's going on in his life? Like, these coaches are human, and if the first thing you want to talk about is a transaction, a player, well, you're going to burn that bridge. And so, like, you want to treat them as human And so build your network in a human way, not in a relational way, not in a transactional way. Um, and through those conversations, start asking what colleges are looking for. Like, what are you looking for in a player? What is your culture at your college? Because every program is different. Every coach is wired differently. They're always looking for different things. And so if you can get to know the coaches and the DNA of the programs that they're building, well, you can start to identify those DNA points in your players. And then you can start having a better way of evaluating and assessing your players based on your network with your coaches at the college level. And then ultimately, I think for all program directors, yes, the goal is can we get them to college? But as a high school coach myself, I want my kids coming back to my program better than they were the year before so we can be a better high school team. And so before we even get to college, as a program director or a travel ball coach, how am I helping this young man or woman develop so they'll be a better sophomore basketball player, a better junior, a better senior, and then we'll get to the college side of the house.
Awesome. Alan, what you got?
There wasn't anything that I agree with everything that was said. I think you have to, with any program, you have to start with what your goals are and just be honest about the entire process. Honest with your coaches, honest with yourself, honest with your parents. We are extremely transparent on all phases. And if you just have great repeatable habits and use the tools that you're given, such as Sports Recruit, and hold yourself accountable, hold your kids accountable, you're going to be successful. And that's what, we've done well. We hold our kids accountable with the process, with making sure that they have a profile on Sports Recruit that they could be proud of, that they could show a college coach, that they're continuously emailing coaches, regardless of whether the coach ever responds back. And yes, you do keep on emailing that coach because eventually they're going to respond. Somebody's going to respond. So if you're true to yourself and true to your kids and honest with your kids, and you believe in the process, it works. We're a perfect example of that. We started with no kids, no relationships, and just believed in helping kids and believed in our process. And with just a fantastic partner like you, Brooke, it's really helped us elevate our program to another level. So we could say that every year, every one of our juniors gets offers and every one of our juniors goes on to play college basketball. Like I said before, we really appreciate what you've done for us.
Two things I wanted to say that coaches can do today, directors can do today. Look in your backyard. There are so many colleges I didn't realize were even out there or close to us, or in our neighborhood or in our region until we really started digging in, and Sports Recruits helps with that. I love the interactive map and the filters and everything where you can all of a sudden you realize you're finding these colleges that you never knew were there before. And then second, to what Chris was saying before is when you approach a coach, share who you are, but realize you're there to help them too. You're there to help your kids, but you're there to help them. And you want to ask them, what are your needs? Not, hey, I have this kid and I think you should recruit them. It's, what do you need today? What do you need tomorrow? What are you looking at? What positions are open? What grad class? And what's your system? And actually, you're going to have to invest time into watching their games and understanding the style of play and who they are, to understand what that match and perfect fit, best fit would be for your athletes and for the college coaches. So you can speak intelligently for them.
It's almost like putting those college coaches through the discovery process you're putting your athletes in, and then you being that middle person to be able to filter that and be able to translate that to if it is a potential fit for your athlete. You know them better than anyone.
I feel like it's this awesome matchmaking
Yeah.
experience.
I've
Yeah.
been guilty of like when my friends ask what SportsRecruits is, I'm like, think of like a dating site, but for
Yeah.
like players and college recruiting. And I was
Yeah.
like, but then don't think about it as a dating
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
If
well,
on the women's side, I've gotten involved with Chris, especially alluded to it in terms of his networking. So I now annually go to, for example, I go to the women's Final Four, and that's an opportunity for me to meet literally every Division I college coach in the country. Not that I meet every one, but I meet a lot of them, and we exchange information, and they're all very approachable. I mean, they need us, and I'm not shy. And in the last three, I've gone to the last three Final Fours, and I probably have in 3 years 150 additional Division I coaches in my phone that I wouldn't necessarily have. So if you have opportunities to go to events like that, I guess I'm sure it's the same. Chris, you go down the men's side to the Final Four?
No.
Yeah.
I go on the woman's side.
yeah.
You do that?
I do on the Final Four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Unless
yeah.
Carolina's playing, I don't go.
Well, this year it's in Phoenix, so I'm especially looking forward. But yeah, if you have those opportunities, it's unfortunate, and I hate to say this, but it's so true. Kids don't necessarily get recruited because they're the best fit or the best player. It's who their coaches know, who the families might know, playing on the sneaker circuit. You know that, Chris. You're not a sneaker team. You know that a coach might take an EYBL kid before they're going to take your kid, even though your kid is significantly better. I go through that right now. It's very frustrating. So getting to know the coaches and having them trust you is really important.
Mhm.
I think there's so many takeaways from what all of the amazing information that all three of you provide with us. And I think the two big things that I am taking out of this myself is that recruiting is process over results and it's relationships over transactions. I think those are kind of like the biggest themes that I feel all three of you have alluded to at this point. So I think for anyone who is starting a brand new club or they're trying to level up to some extent, I think those are really some great core values to really have just like a original focus on. And then hopefully a lot of that success will happen naturally if you stick to that game plan.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Thank you, but all three of you for joining. You all are amazing examples of just what it should look like to run a successful and impactful system of basketball. And yeah, your athletes are very lucky. So yeah, thank you all.
I would just say, Brooke, that if anyone that's listening wants my contact, you're free to share my email with them. I'm happy to connect.
Very
Thank
Same with
you.
me.
Same. Yep.
Well,
Great.
thank you. Really appreciate it all.
All right,
Thank you.
guys. Everybody have a happy holiday season.
Yes. Same to you all. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank
Okay, bye
Going to the
guys.
gym for practice.
Oh,
There you
Bye.
go. Bye.